Welcome back to the Deep Dive, where we tear through the source material so you don't have to. Today, we are tackling one of the most polarizing financial bets on the entire planet, the true nature of Tesla. And look, if you're valuing it by cars sold last quarter, or you're comparing its margins to, say, Toyota or GM, you are already making a fundamental mistake.
You really are. Wall Street loves that kind of linear math. They see a car company, so they just, they pull out the car company spreadsheet,
Right.
inventory, sales, market share. But the source material for this deep dive argues that this completely misses the point. It misses this planetary scale pivot. And that pivot is what makes this company either a spectacular failure or potentially the largest company to have ever existed.
Okay, let's unpack this. The core thesis, and this is what really defines the whole valuation debate, is that Tesla is pivoting from transporting humans to, well, replacing humans.
Yeah.
The car itself is almost a red herring. It's just the shell. We're here to analyze the ghost in the machine.
And that ghost is what creates the binary stakes. If they fail this pivot, if they just remain a niche EV maker, our sources are pretty clear. The stock is probably heading toward $50.
Yes.
But if they succeed, if they pull off this massive technological shift, the ceiling isn't $1 trillion. We're talking about a $10 trillion technology powerhouse. It is, without a doubt, the biggest call option in the history of capitalism.
That's what's so fascinating. It's not just high risk, it's existential risk. We saw this exact same analytical failure back in, 2015?
With Apple.
With Apple.
Right.
Everyone was obsessing over peak iPhone sales. They completely missed that Apple was building this incredibly profitable services business right underneath. It's the same error. They're comparing a data company to a hardware company. You have to look past the sheet metal. You have to look at the silicon.
It forces analysts to switch from these safe, proven financial models to modeling exponential growth curves, which is a much scarier place to be. But it's what drives that valuation.
So let's jump into the biggest and maybe the scariest part of this whole thing, the end of labor. Our sources suggest the car, the battery. It's all just funding for the main event, and that main event is Optimus.
And this is really where that $10 trillion number comes from. It all hinges on solving true general AI, creating a machine that can, adapt to basically any task. The problem they're trying to solve is actually pretty compelling. The world is literally running out of people.
Exactly. The source material points this out very clearly. Almost every major developed economy, China, Japan, most of Europe, is facing demographic collapse.
Severe, irreversible population decline.
So we need labor, but the human supply is shrinking. And that's a hard cap on economic growth. It limits everything.
It's the ultimate scarcity problem. So if you can create unlimited, scalable labor, you break the entire system.
Now, we've had industrial robots for, 50 years?
Yeah.
But those robots, the ones you see on assembly lines, our sources call them stupid.
Or specialized, yeah, they're just running a script.
Right, they do one thing perfectly. But if you move a box 1 inch to the left, the whole system just fails. Optimus is totally different. It uses the exact same AI brain, the same neural net as the autonomous car fleet. It's trained on real-world video to see the world, to understand physics, and to learn by watching.
It's designed to be a general-purpose worker.
Yes.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, the economic shockwave would be immense. The goal is to mass produce this thing for, $20,000?
$20,000, and then have it work reliably for maybe $2 an hour. So what happens to everything, to global manufacturing?
And manufacturing costs would go to zero. Labor costs they vanish. Agriculture, logistics, elder care.
Our sources argue this would trigger a massive deflationary event. It drives inflation to zero and creates wealth on a scale we can't even imagine. It makes the iPhone, which just moves data around, look like a toy.
This lines up with their master plan Part 4 idea. Sustainable energy plus unlimited labor equals the age of abundance. But I have to be the skeptic here. The history of technology is it's a graveyard of failed promises about general-purpose robots.
That's fair.
For decades, we've been promised the robot butler that will do our dishes, and we're still waiting. This whole thing depends on solving general AI, a problem no one has ever solved.
True, but the company's defense is that the path to Optimus is being paid for by the consumer. Which brings us to the Tata moat, the Trojan horse.
Yes, and the core challenge is still there. The entire Optimus plan depends on the full self-driving AI brain. If that AI can't safely drive down a street...
Certainly can't navigate a factory floor.
Or your house, exactly.
Okay, but this is where it gets really interesting. The car itself. It isn't the product. It's a data vacuum. This is the Trojan horse theory.
And you are effectively paying $40,000 to be a data annotator for their supercomputer, Dojo.
Precisely. Every mile you drive, even with autopilot off, the car is often in shadow mode. It's processing the world, comparing what the AI would do to what you, the human, actually did.
And if there's a difference, it uploads that little clip.
That feedback loop is the moat.
Let's talk about the scale of that, though. The data is everything. Tesla has billions of miles of real-world video. And not easy miles. We're talking about weird weather, construction zones.
Near misses.
Near misses, yeah. Waymo, a huge competitor, has millions of miles. Ford has basically zero relevant data for this kind of AI.
And that data set is the only one big enough to train an AI to actually understand physics. They aren't coding stop at red light. They're training the network to see.
Which is why the Robotaxi is the real pivot for the car business.
Right.
Right now, something like 70% of your Uber fare is the human driver.
Right.
The Cybercab, the autonomous one, just removes the human from the equation.
And the math is just, it's brutal. The source material projects the cost per mile plummets from around $2.
Down to about 20 cents.
Down to 20 cents. And at that price, you, the listener, have to seriously ask yourself why you own a car at all.
Why would you own a $30,000 asset that just sits in your driveway 95% of the time, costing you insurance and maintenance?
When you can summon a ride for less than a cup of coffee, it completely upends urban planning, personal finance, everything. But okay, the competition.
Yeah.
You brought up Waymo. They are running robotaxis right now in San Francisco. So why haven't they already won?
This is where the tech difference is so critical. Waymo uses expensive LiDAR sensors, and it operates inside a geofence.
And we need to be clear what that means.
A geofence is a perfect, high-definition, pre-made map of an area. Their cars are basically stuck inside that boundary where they've memorized every single curb and traffic light. Our sources call it a tram on invisible rails.
And a tram can't scale, right?
Yeah.
LiDAR is way too expensive, and mapping the entire world in that detail it's just not practical.
No.
Tesla, though, uses cheap cameras, maybe $200 worth, and it's aiming for universal deployment. It should work in Mumbai or on a dirt road in Texas, just as well as Manhattan, without a perfect map.
Because the AI is just seeing, it's interpreting raw vision.
Exactly.
That's the upside. The risk, though, the risk is catastrophic. And this is where we have to talk about the March of Nines. To be truly safer than a human, to be allowed on the roads at scale by regulators, the system has to be 99.9999% safe.
And let's put that in context, because 99% safe sounds amazing, right?
Sounds great.
But our sources point out, if every car was only 99% safe, we'd be having fatal accidents every few hours on the freeway.
We're talking about a safety standard that is almost perfect. Right now, the system is maybe at 99.9%. That last little bit, that final 0.09%, that is the hardest engineering problem in human history.
Because you're solving for the weird stuff.
You're solving for the long tail. The unpredictable, absurd events, that's the chasm they have to cross.
It's the ultimate binary risk. If they solve it, they win global transport. If they don't, the tech is basically illegal.
But even if they get the tech perfect, even if they achieve those nines, you have the second existential threat, the government. Will regulators anywhere in the world allow a car with no steering wheel to drive around New York City or London, even if the data says it's safer?
Yeah.
The political risk, the liability, the fear of job losses, they could just say no. And if regulators say no, the Robotaxi is dead and the stock goes back to $50.
So it's a social battle as much as an engineering one. But while everyone is obsessed with this, with the March of Nines and the regulators, the company has been quietly building something else, a financial bedrock.
What's fascinating here is the energy division. It's the sleeper monopoly. While everyone argues about Cybertrucks, this part of the business is building a stable, high-margin foundation.
It's like the AWS of Tesla.
Exactly. The boring side hustle that ends up funding all the crazy blue sky risks.
And the need for it is driven by the AI boom itself. These data centers use a gargantuan amount of power. Our grids were never built for that. Plus, you have solar and wind, which are intermittent.
You have to have massive storage to make the grid stable, and that solution is the Megapack.
Right. These are huge utility-scale batteries. Think football field-sized.
And they store energy and feed it back when it's needed. This business is growing at, 100% year over year, and the margins are often much higher than the car business.
But it's not just the hardware, not just the big battery box. The real genius is the software, AutoBidder. It's an arbitrage system.
So think of it like this. At noon, when the sun is out, electricity is cheap. Autobidder buys that power and stores it.
Mm-hmm.
Then at 7 p.m., everyone gets home, solar drops off, demand spikes, and power gets expensive. Autobidder automatically sells that cheap stored power back to the grid for a profit.
It literally prints cash for the utilities,
Yeah.
and it makes the grid stable. Our sources say the backlog for these things is years long because utilities need them to avoid blackouts.
It's quietly turning Tesla into a distributed utility company. And that provides the financial runway to take these huge decade-long bets on things like Optimus.
So let's synthesize this.
The grand debt is clear. The stock price isn't based on PE ratios. It is a call option on the singularity. You're buying the potential of the general AI, the ghost in the machine.
And the energy division is the stable cash flow that funds the R&D.
While the car division provides that unique proprietary data moat to actually train the AI.
They're not trying to beat Ford. They're trying to beat the physical limits of the human economy. But it means solving the hardest problem in software, the March of Nines, and the hardest problem in Robotics Optimus.
And the energy business is a great safety net, but it doesn't solve that core technology problem.
So what does this all mean for you? If this vision plays out, it suggests a revolutionary deflationary age. But that entire vision depends on two huge points of failure. The question for you to think about as you weigh this massive binary bet is this: which part is more likely to fail? Is it the technology, that final fraction of a percent to get to perfect autonomy? Or is it the political and regulatory environment that decides if the technology is even allowed to exist at scale?
The ultimate battle might not be in a lab or a data center, but in a legislative chamber.
Something to think about. Thank you for joining us for the deep dive.